If you are on the journey of overcoming a marijuana dependency, then you might want to watch this video because I'm about to tell you about my whole journey with that plant from the moment I first tried it to the moment I realized I was hopelessly addicted to the moment I quit and never looked back. And in case we haven't met before, my name is Itai and I'm a yoga teacher from New York City. I teach yoga to a community of thousands of people online, and I've helped a lot of people overcome all kinds of addiction. So let me just tell you my personal story with the worst addiction I've ever faced. Because we all have lots of different forms of compulsion in our lives, right? Some people like online shopping, some people like watching spicy videos online, some people like eating a lot. Some people like chronic monogamy. Some people like hard drugs. Most of us have so many compulsions in our life that we can't even keep track of them all, but I think everyone has one or two favorites that they always come back to, and that was marijuana for me. So I'm about to tell you about my whole journey with marijuana from beginning to end, hoping that it will help you find a little bit of guidance and a way out of the darkness, no matter what bondage you're trying to get freed from. So I'm from New York City, and I went to a public school in Midtown where a lot of the kids I was with had been smoking that loud since they were 12. But I actually never tried it till I was 15 or 16 when I was in my sophomore year. My whole freshman year, I was so proud to be like that clean teen who never went too crazy at parties and had self-restraint. But then I was at Amigos concert of all places. Of course it was Amigos concert. And somebody passed me a fatty and I took a hit. And actually nothing happened. I've heard a lot of people say a similar thing, which is that when they first smoked that plant, nothing actually happened. But the next time was probably at like a house party, and I started to realize, okay, in my little teenage brain, I was like, this is cool. I've never liked roller coasters, but this is more of a psychoactive roller coaster that I could get down with. But you know, even still, I wasn't really partaking all that often, and I would get anxious. I would start overthinking, so I kept my distance from the plant. Just every so often at a party, if I was peer pressured enough, I would go ham. Then the more I got used to it, the more I learned to circumnavigate the more difficult parts of it, like the anxiety, like feeling super hazy the next morning. I started doing it more often. But still, for the duration of my high school career, it was only socially, and I never actually even bought my own pack. At most, I would like look forward to it because I knew it would be at somebody's crib. But that all changed when I graduated, because I graduated during COVID. I graduated in June of 2020, and in March of 2020, I found myself bored out of my mind, at home, far from all my friends, dealing with a lot of emotions. And I bought my first pack. And I smoked alone for the first time in my life. And it was euphoria. It allowed me to explore the cosmos without leaving my bedroom. And it was like having a best friend that I could chill with at home during lockdown. It made food taste better, it made movies better, it made songs sound better. And yeah, I fell in deep very quickly. Before long, I was smoking every day. And that smoking every day was a pattern that actually persisted for 3 years. From the time I was 18 till I was 21, almost 22. And gradually, it was a love affair that exited its honeymoon phase and got a little dark, got a little complicated, got a little codependent. Because yes, marijuana helped me escape to a happy place that was all sunshine and rainbows. But as a consequence of that, I was actually bottling up a lot of emotions and not experiencing an entire emotional spectrum. And eventually it got to a point where whenever a difficult feeling would come up, I would just shove it down. I would just sweep it under the rug. And I would just retreat like a coward to this place where everything was happy. And that was the most insidious thing about marijuana, is that it kept me complacent in situations that I should have challenged, that I should not have been okay with myself being in. Beyond that, it got to a point where I needed to be high to watch a movie. I couldn't go to sleep without smoking. And there were certain friends that I only hung out with if we were smoking. So it was dictating my relationships, my private activities, and the entire schedule of my day. It really was like having a toxic lover, because like if somebody would invite me to a place where I knew I couldn't smoke, or if anyone suggested plans that would get in the way of my routine, I wouldn't do it. I would choose to stay inside and eat peanut butter while I was high out of my mind. Maybe like watching Netflix or something, staying up till 2 a.m. thinking. And of course, always in the back of my mind, there was this thought of like, really? Is this life? Is this gonna be the rest of my life? But another part of my mind which was like, yes, this is as good as it gets. What more could you possibly want? And since I've studied yoga, I've realized that our mind is made up of so many different voices. And our thoughts are not even us, as much as we might like to believe that we are our thoughts. Our thoughts are just different energies passing through the space of our mind, and we get to choose which ones we listen to. But marijuana creates a little bit of interference and prevents us from picking up on those frequencies. So that went on for a while, and as the years went on, more and more often I would get this thought of, I know this isn't good for me, but I'm scared to stop. Because honestly, there was a pain in knowing that I was shackled to this plant, but that pain was not as great as the pain that was caused by the fear of quitting and changing my behavior. And I kept trying to quit. I tried to quit so many times, but the problem was that I wanted it so bad, and I knew that it was bad for me, but I still craved it so bad, and so I could never stay away. I would stop for a week and I would be thinking about marijuana nonstop, and then eventually I would just relapse. And this went on for like 2 years. I would go through cycles of justifying it to myself and using freely, and then beating myself up about it, feeling guilty and trying to stop but not being able to. And eventually it got to a point where it wasn't even making me high anymore. Like it was just returning me to this baseline of numbness. And if I wasn't smoking, I felt horrible. If I was smoking, I felt like normal and gray and bland. And as my tolerance increased, I would be high for shorter amounts of time. I would have to smoke more times a day. And right before I quit, I was smoking like 3 or 4 times a day. My parents would try to talk to me about it. My friends would try to talk to me about it, but I just didn't really want to hear it. And I knew they were right, but I wasn't brave enough yet to look myself in the mirror and make myself a true promise to quit. But the way that I actually ended up quitting is really interesting. So I had discovered yoga about like 9 months to a year prior to quitting. But I'll be honest with you, I was going to yoga class high, I was meditating high, I was doing breathwork high because it increased the yogasm. And I was like, why not? It's a natural plant. Not realizing that by doing all this stuff under the influence, I was robbing my body of appreciating the benefits of this ancient science. I wasn't able to understand what my body was capable of. So although yoga felt really good, I wasn't really experiencing yoga. I was just experiencing pleasure. And every yogi knows there's a big difference between pleasure and bliss. Pleasure is fleeting, pleasure is purely physical. There's not much spirituality to it. But bliss is perpetual. Bliss is equanimous. And that was a feeling I never knew. Then one day, I was home, I took a fat bong rip and I started meditating. And I remember thinking about how my habit was getting a little out of control. And then in meditation, I was visited by a green apparition. It was like a spirit. And this has never happened to me before. But this big green monster got up in my face and said, "Get out," and roared right into my face. And this shocked me, but I shook awake and my eyes sprang open and I was like kicked out of meditation. Like imagine if you're acting belligerent in the club, the bouncer is gonna drag you out of there. That's what happened to me. I was kicked out of meditation. And the message I received from this green entity was, stop abusing this sacred practice with a plant that's giving you shallow pleasures. And that was a profound experience. I'm so thankful for that divine intervention. The next day, I threw out my bong, I threw out every piece of paraphernalia I had, and that was the first day of my sobriety. That day, I went to a Buddhist meditation center in Manhattan, and I meditated sober maybe for the first time in my life. And it was so different, it was so incredible. Since then, I haven't looked back, and I'm so thankful that I made the decision to quit. It's changed my life for the better. I was able to exit so many situations that weren't serving me. I was able to elevate my level of self-worth. My sleep improved, my yoga practice improved, my diet improved. I could go on and on. But above all, I taught myself that I don't need to be dependent on anything. Since then, I've quit many other things. I've quit eating meat, I've quit watching porn, I quit drinking alcohol because marijuana taught me how powerful I really am and that my compulsions don't define me. And what's crazy is that once I started quitting, I realized that it was a gradual recovery. Actually, cannabis doesn't leave your bloodstream till 30 days after you quit, I believe. But you might have to double check me on that. So at least for 1 month, I was experiencing crazy transitional effects, including withdrawals, and all of these difficult emotions that I suppressed started coming up to the surface, and I had to look at them, but thankfully I wasn't scared of them because I was seeing a therapist at the time and she helped me through it a lot. But it made me realize that I wasn't living a full emotional spectrum. I was just numb to the complexities of human expression. And I found it to be such a privilege to regain touch with anger, sadness, grief, frustration, worry. And I started on my path of becoming a full-fledged human. I'm so grateful for my recovery. I'm so grateful to be sober now. I'm actually 18 months totally sober, and more is to come. But my sobriety will be worth nothing if I don't share the tools of how I did it. So if you're in your recovery journey, and it doesn't have to be from marijuana, it can be from any addiction, any compulsion, any dependency, I want you to know a few things. Number one, definitely pick up the book Dopamine Nation by Anna Lemke. She's an American psychiatrist, and she wrote the definitive guide on how dopamine works in our brain and body. Because dopamine drives addiction, and we have the power to take control of our dopamine. So that book made me think way differently about neuroscience in general, but also how the pleasure-pain balance works in in our brain. So if you are dealing with an addiction and you're trying to recover, let this be your sign to pick up that book, Dopamine Nation. Another thing that I learned is Yoga Nidra is really good for cravings. I have some Yoga Nidra guided meditations on my channel. There are 100 on YouTube, if not more. But Yoga Nidra is this really powerful kind of meditation where you do a body scan and it's a nervous system reset. Most cravings don't last more than 20 minutes, even though in the moment it feels like it's never gonna go away. So if you get a craving, I recommend you do like a 20-minute Yoga Nidra video on YouTube, whether it's mine or somebody else's. You will emerge from that and find that the craving is gone. I do believe, and I've seen it in myself and in my students and in a bunch of other people, that yoga is the way out of compulsion. And there are many entry points to yoga. You can start doing stretches on a mat, you can start doing meditation, you can start doing breath work, you can start singing, you can start learning by reading books, or you can start doing public service, like volunteer work. There's so many paths to yoga, but they all inevitably lead to the same realization, which is that you are capable of engineering your body, mind, and life energies in a way that creates the exact reality that you want. So although now you might feel like a victim of addiction, that is not your fate. That is not your prophecy. That is not your destiny. Allow me to equip you with the tools that will help you realize your truest self. Check out my channel because I got a whole bunch of videos about yoga. Everything from how to fall asleep to how to overcome anxiety, how to stop tension in your jaw, back, how to digest better. I could go on and on. Y'all just gotta check out the channel. But leave a comment below and let me know if you resonated with what I shared. Let me know what addictions you're overcoming and let me know what the biggest roadblocks are for you right now. If you ask me a question, I'll definitely answer it in the comments below. I love you so much. If you enjoyed this video or you wanna know more about yoga, please subscribe to this channel. It would mean a lot to me. If you subscribe, I promise I'll do everything I can to make this channel as good as it can be. Also, I've been solo traveling across Asia for almost a year now, and I post vlogs about everywhere I've been here on this channel. I love you so much. You are so strong and you are capable of anything. Let this video be the turning point where you come into your new identity. I'll see you next time. Peace and love.